Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for my review of the 2014 horror film It Follows, which is directed by David Robert Mitchell and stars Maika Monroe. And there will be some spoilers to this film, so just a heads up there. It Follows is kind of interesting because apparently there's actually quite a few people who really liked this movie, and that's fine. But I have to say, if you are one of those people, this is not the review for you. I pretty much strongly disliked this movie in almost every way possible, and I will explain why. So, to follow the main plot of this film, basically, a girl likes a guy, a younger lady. So she, kind of does it with him, however you want to say it, and he passes on some kind of thing to her. I'm not sure exactly what it is, where some kind of demon, supernatural being, whatever it is, will follow her around and try and do her in. This is never really explained much more than that throughout the movie, which is fine. I don't mind that element. Not everything has to be explained to me. But this pretty much fails in every way, and there's one flaw to the plot that I really think makes absolutely no sense at all. But even with movies I don't like, I always try to find the good in everything. And there were a few things that I kind of liked about this movie, so I will start there. The lead performance by Maika Monroe is solid, while I think the rest of the cast is pretty poor overall. She does try here. The movie is shot very well, I will admit, especially for a horror film. If you're into the technical aspects of film, this works pretty well, and I thought the musical score was interesting. That's about it. I pretty much disliked everything else about this movie. One of the things I really disliked is that this movie has a very distant feel to it. It really has no energy at all. It really commits, in my opinion, the worst mistake a movie can commit, and that's that this movie is completely boring and dull, in my opinion. Maybe it was deliberate to try and give the movie a slow pace and have no energy, and I don't mind a slow build, but it doesn't work in this movie at all because even during the slow build, nothing of importance or interest is happening. This movie tries to be creepy and basically fails. And I think the main reason it fails is because the actual thing following, it's never given a name, takes different forms, but none of them are menacing or scary in any way. They just look like people walking around in bad, like zombie makeup or something. I thought that aspect of the movie was important and handled very poorly. Also, the supporting characters are very bland, they're uninteresting at all. The lead character's given a little development. The side characters, I didn't care what happened to them at all. But I think part of the problem for this is that they're never in any danger because the way the plot is set up, the only characters anything bad can happen to are the ones that this virus or whatever it is have been passed to. So without any of the other characters being in danger, they just become plot devices. This didn't seem too well thought out to me when the script was being written. This movie was in bad need of humor as well, in my opinion. A serious horror movie is fine, but this movie just took itself way too seriously, which I'll get into a little bit more later on, and was just dull. Also, most of this movie is set up. I don't mind a long setup, but this whole movie is basically set up. Nothing happens, especially the first hour. I think within like the first 15 minutes, we get the plot set up, and then there's just shots of people walking around doing nothing for like 45 minutes. I looked at the clock because I was really bored, never a good sign. And about 55 minutes into this movie, it starts to pick up a little bit, but even then, not a whole lot. My biggest problem with this movie, though, is that it's one of those movies where the lead character does illogical things just so that the story will progress. Some illogical plot points. She's scared that the thing following her might get her, so she runs off into the woods by herself unprotected. Yeah, because that makes sense. Even a bigger plot point problem in this film, it is explained finally about halfway through the film that this thing, whatever it is, even if you, like sleep with another person and pass it on, it will probably still follow you. So the lead character knows this, and yet she passes it on anyway. What? And then her reasoning is because she thought the person would be okay that she did this to. Yeah, that's the explanation, because that makes a whole bunch of self. A horror movie, the plot doesn't have to make perfect sense, but this is so ridiculous and so nonsensical, it just completely takes any credibility out of the movie at all. And then we get to about the last 15 minutes of this movie, which is supposed to be the climax, and we get her going in a pool. For some reason, there's some kind of metaphor or something with her in pools in this movie that's never explained, makes absolutely no sense. And then this thing. I guess they're trying to lure it to her. Again, never explained. And we have a character shooting a gun at something it can't see. Probably not too good of an idea at this point. So eventually it is resolved. But then even at the very end, we get this philosophical type ending that's supposed to make you think. But the movie doesn't earn it at all. It's just there to say, I'm a good movie, even though in my opinion, It Follows is really not good. It's pretty much a failure in every way. To be fair, It Follows isn't the worst movie I've ever seen. The lead actress does try, and her character's kind of interesting. Also, the movie is shot well with a decent musical score, but those things are not nearly enough to save this movie. The plot just doesn't work for me at all. And like I said, the movie is just dull. It's just an uninteresting movie and kind of ultimately pointless in my opinion. So I'm going to give It Follows a 1.5 out of 5. I would say watch this one at your own risk. I cannot recommend It Follows. So 1.5 out of 5 for It Follows. And as always, thank you very much for watching.